Okay guys, so in this video I want to discuss with you what we're going to be making for our next project that we are going to be working on remotely. So you will be doing this in your own homes. I want to just, before we even begin that, discuss with you some of the materials you're going to need to make this. And I've already posted some recommended materials up on Classroom, so you probably are already prepared. I do also want to just spend time in this video talking about different collage materials and options you have for creating this abstract piece of art. So as you can see here, this is an example of student work that I just made a color copy of. So that's what you're seeing here. This is actual piece of student work. It is abstract in nature, meaning it does not represent any realistic things. You cannot pinpoint exactly what is being pictured here. The artist rather uses color, shape, line, texture to create the piece of art and arrange it the way they wanted to in the piece of art without representing anything that is realistic, basically. So that's what abstract art is. By this point, I would imagine you do understand what abstract art is. The way we made this, the way we went about making this in class, is similar to the way I'm going to be asking you guys to make it, except for maybe some substitutions with materials. First, what we did was we laid down shapes of magazine collage. So collage is basically cutting out pieces of paper and gluing it onto a surface. That's all collage means. And here, here, and here are the original pieces of collage that the student pasted down first onto a blank white piece of paper. And in a separate video, I'll be walking you through how to begin this, so you don't have to worry about that yet. I just want to lay out the groundwork for you guys so you understand what we'll be doing. So 1, 2, 3, he spaced them out. He cut out non-representational forms, and these pieces of collage were all found in a magazine, and that's how we would be doing it if we were at school together. But we're not, so I just want to show you some different collage options. I'm going to be doing this piece of art right along with you so that I can create video demos to help guide you. And I am in a similar boat as you where, and you might have access to magazines, but I don't order magazines ever. I don't have magazines come to my house at all. So I actually do not have magazines here at home to get this project started. So I wanted to show you guys some alternatives if you are in that same boat. If you have magazines, you can use collage from magazines, will work great because that's how the project was originally designed. So I'm going to put this aside. Here are just some things. I'm asking you to be creative if you do not have access to magazines at your home, like I've done here. So I went around my house and I just kind of scrounged around for possible collage materials. So some things that I found were bits of an old map that could be cut into shapes and pasted down onto my paper. Some old wrapping paper with stripes on it. That could also be a collage that works for this. An old calendar. I took out some pieces that had interesting colors and shapes that I liked that I could also use for my collage. This is the original calendar. An old map from Southwick Zoo that I had stashed away and saved for I don't know what. Old or coupons or anything that comes in the mail that you don't want to keep. This actually has some nice neutral gray tones and browns, so that could work. The key is color. Whatever you use, you want it to be color, not black and white, because this is a color unit. So we're going to be trying to mix and match the colors just like this student did here. So if you didn't know that these pieces were magazine collage, you probably wouldn't know just by looking at it. He camouflaged them so well into his work of art that it just looks like it's part of his painting. So that's part of what we're going to be doing, is using our knowledge of color mixing to try to camouflage the collage into the abstract piece of art. This is actually another option. I have this old piece of experimental artwork from a class I took years ago that I dislike a lot. So I could also cut up an old piece of artwork and use that as collage. As you can see, it has collage integrated into it already. But if I just cut that up, I could use it and repurpose it in this piece if I wanted to. And then I also found some old pieces of artwork that I had made color copies of, and I could cut shapes out of that and use that for my collage. So you can be creative. You could also cut up pieces of cardboard, cereal boxes, things like that. Anything that is relatively flat that you could glue down to a surface and that has color in it, not just black and white. So you wouldn't really be able to use, say, a page of black and white text or a black and white portion of a newspaper. If it had color in it, you could use that, however. Okay, next I just want to briefly go through some of the materials that we use to do this project. I mentioned this before in our Google Meet, but I am going to be flexible with what you use as long as you're using some kind of color medium. But I'm just going to outline first what we would be using, like the best case scenario, what we'd be using in class and some of the supplies I asked you to get if you could. So first thing, we'll be using watercolor as a base. Any variety, any brand, doesn't matter if it's cheap, expensive, whatever you can get your hands on. These are the watercolors that we use at school. So this is Prang. They're not the best quality, but they're decent for what we do in art class. Okay, so watercolors are the best to lay down as a base. If you only have acrylic paint, for example, and you can't get watercolors for whatever reason, you could use watered down acrylic paint for this, and that would work just fine as well. I'm going to ask that you use colored pencils if you can. These are Prismacolor colored pencils because I am an artist and I'm fancy. This is like the best quality you can possibly get for colored pencils. I'm not asking you to use Prismacolors. If you have Crayola, Rose Art, they could be the cheapest kind of colored pencils. Whatever you have, you can use. So those are the two main supplies that we're going to be using in addition with the collage. If you only have crayons at home, if you only have colored markers, maybe you have chalk pastels, maybe you have oil pastels, any sort of color medium, even colored pens would be a stretch, but you could make that work. Any color medium that you have access to. If you can't get the other things that I'm asking you to get, feel free to use any other color media. I'm going to be very flexible with this since you are working at home. And then just the last thing I want to talk to you about, and I talked about this before in the Google Meet and in a previous post, but you do want to have some sort of decent quality paper. Now, watercolor paper, the one that I posted up on Classroom, is the best for this because if you're using watercolor, watercolor paper has like a tooth to it that really helps you blend the watercolors, and it handles the watercolors really well. If you do not have access to that or you can't get it, the next best thing would be a piece of your sketchbook paper. If you have your sketchbook, is a little bit thicker, sturdier than just regular copy paper. I do not recommend trying to paint on copy paper. If that is a situation you're in and that's all you can get your hands on, then I would suggest using only dry media, colored pencil, marker, pen, and skipping the watercolor altogether. And that's it.